The Idea Start podcast explores all things innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship, co-created by Idea Start and the Center for the Advancement of Teaching and Learning. Join us to move your ideas to impact with the University of Manitoba community.
Today, we are absolutely thrilled to welcome Dr. Michael Benarroch to the Idea Start podcast. Dr. Benarroch returned to Winnipeg in 2020 as the president of the University of Manitoba. Was recently affirmed for a second term as well. Prior to that, he served as provost and vice president academic at Toronto Metropolitan University. He was there for about 3 years. And before that, he was here. He was at the University of Manitoba in the I.H. Asper School of Business. He also served for 21 years at the University of Winnipeg. We are thrilled to have Dr. Benarroch on our podcast today. Let's start the conversation. Dr. Benarroch, welcome to the Idea Start podcast. We're thrilled to have you.
I'm thrilled to be here.
For our audience, of course, Dr. Benarroch hosts an award-winning podcast called What's the Big Idea? And
That's
so we're
right.
excited to welcome you to the other side of the table today, so to speak.
Yeah, it feels weird. I'm used to asking the questions, and now I'm being put on the spot.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, our podcast is about really building community here at UM around all things innovation and entrepreneurship. And certainly we have a really rich legacy at UM on this topic. We have had, continue to have really dedicated faculty and staff and supports and resources, but we also know this is an area of growing emphasis of doing new things and more things. And I think our roles are kind of tied to that. And so we're
Absolutely.
really excited to hear more about your vision for this at UM. So I thought maybe that's where we could start. If you could share with us a little bit about what is your vision for innovation, entrepreneurship at the university.
So even though my podcast is called What's the Big Idea, I think my vision is a big idea for University of Manitoba. And I've had the opportunity to work at universities that have done innovation and been in the entrepreneurship space, having startups. I think that at University of Manitoba, and what we've learned from these other places is it's less about pushing everybody to a startup zone and more about developing a mindset. Because the reality is that many startups fail. Most startups fail at some point. And
Yes.
I think what we want to do as an educational institution, what I hope my vision is, and the way we articulate this as an institution, is to nurture an entrepreneurial and innovative mindset in our students, in our faculty, in our staff. And what I mean by that is having people think about how their ideas might lead to change in the world, whether it's in the business world, whether it's in social innovation, in whatever area that may be, to develop a thinking and a mindset for people to think about going beyond just the idea to trying to find ways to apply that idea to the world. And I think if we do that, we can graduate students who will start their own businesses, who will move into social innovation spaces, who will bring an innovative and entrepreneurial mindset to wherever they go to work, and they'll push their organizations to be more creative and to help solve some of the problems we face in the world.
Yeah, really good point. So sometimes we see the value of this later on. It's not an instant piece.
Absolutely. And I think it's an investment that you're making early on, which will probably bear fruit a little later. But that's how it is. I mean, that's our job, I guess.
Absolutely. And I think that, don't get me wrong, I would love to see 50 students running businesses that become successful.
Yes.
Right? I would love to see that happen.
Absolutely.
Right? I would absolutely love to see that happen. And I would love to see University of Manitoba contributing to that cycle of those students leading to that. But that doesn't have to be the end goal and the only goal of Idea Start and of developing an entrepreneurial network and an innovative network. It can go way beyond that. And it could be somebody who never starts their own business, but brings a mindset of how they want to drive change and innovation throughout their lives.
Yeah. I like that word, like intrapreneurship, wherever you're sort of placed, wherever you're seated, having that mindset of future growth, future change, future innovation.
And one of the things I observed, I was a theoretical economist, so I kind of joke that reality used to throw me off because I couldn't assume it away. But when I became dean of a business school, and that's way back in like 2007 when I started this process,
Right.
and I started to speak to students, not just students in business, but students in science, and then later students in engineering and students in computer science, and students in medicine and other areas. I realized that there are so many students who think about ideas that they want to take to market in some way, and that we as a university need to contribute and help them acquire the knowledge that they'll need if they ever decide to take that idea to market to be successful.
Yeah.
I mean, we did great work. There was great work done in the Asper School and continues to be through the Stu Clark Center for Entrepreneurship, where that kind of education is taking place, and I feel that as a university we have a responsibility to take that beyond just a business school, because at the end of the day, most of the ideas for businesses, especially if they're tech related, most of the ideas for innovation, if they're tech related, are not necessarily coming from business graduates, but they often can't get to market without business graduates helping them. So
Exactly.
it's an interdisciplinary, cross-disciplinary venture. That's the other part I love about it. I would love, and I think we're already doing this, where we bring together students, faculty, staff from across the university, and that collision of ideas and that challenging the innovator to think about what may work in the marketplace. And it may not be something they get in their engineering class.
That's correct.
But when you have a business student there, they may be driving that idea, saying, how would we market this? How would we sell this?
Mm-hmm.
How would that actually work in the marketplace? What's the competition? And I think developing that kind of educational framework, and I think we have many pieces of this at U of M, but bringing it together, I think will prepare students to better deal with the challenges they'll face when they leave the university.
Yeah. Can I just say, Dr. Benarroch, as the most senior leader, I'm so impressed that your thinking about this was shaped by students, by what you've heard from students.
I think because it's students who I've observed launching businesses. And that's not to say faculty haven't done it, and I've even seen some staff do it. But it's something that a lot of younger people want to do. Yeah. And I think that's a shift in the mentality. I mean, it's not a shift that happened yesterday. It's been happening for years, but I began to observe that. And I remember having a discussion with a parent. This is probably around 2015, and their child was graduating from the Asper School. I think they had taken finance, and they turned down a job that was going to pay them a very nice salary, and they decided to go to a startup where there was no pay, actually. I mean, maybe minimum wage, and below minimum wage if you consider the number of hours this young person was going to contribute.
That's right.
But they were so passionate about trying to take this opportunity. And I remember saying to the parent, and they said to me, well, what if the business goes bankrupt in 3 years? I said, well, your son will be 25 years old and have the rest of their life to make it up. Better to do it in your 20s than in your 60s.
That's right. That's right. In fact, some of the ideas that, like you said, were so evident yesterday when we had the Falling Walls competition, the diversity of those ideas and the different fields. And like you said, some of those ideas came not from the business faculties. Most of those ideas from, the different faculties that we have on campus.
And I think that's pretty typical of what we're seeing everywhere around the world. And so, launching these competitions as one part of the process is to me really, really exciting. To see our students want to engage in that way And I think for me, the vision of Idea Start was, if you think of a continuum, where the end of that is actually launching a business, but the beginning of it is, sitting in sitting somewhere around campus or sitting in your basement at home thinking of an idea. Wherever a student might be on that continuum, that we would be able to engage them and contribute to their knowledge. And that's what we do as universities. We contribute to people's knowledge. And I think what I would like to see us is to be able to engage students, to be able to engage faculty wherever they are. A faculty member may have an idea that's come out of a lab, and we've seen those at U of M, which have become extremely successful. But how do we engage them then at that point? How many ideas have been generated in labs at University of Manitoba that have never gone to market, that maybe have the potential to go to market? So how do we make that part of our lexicon at U of M? And not forcing anybody, but if that's a direction that people want to take, how do we help them get to that point?
Yeah, and to market or to the community.
Absolutely.
As appropriate, as you said. And that's not just about the business piece.
That's right. And when I was at the Asper School, and when I was at Toronto Metropolitan University, where they have a lot of startup zones.
Yes.
What I observed when we brought people from community in, and I used to say to them when we would visit a business competition at the Asper School, and I would say to them, does this look like a university to you? Does this look like the university you went to, where you sat in a classroom? And instead it was, a bunch of people kind of working together to try to launch a business or pitching a competition.
Yeah.
And invariably, that person is going to say, no, that wasn't available when I was at a university. But that is part of our education. Yeah. And for those people who want it, I think we should contribute to that part of their education.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think at Idea Start, our job is cut out to kind of build on your vision and kind of deliver on this support systems, if I may, so that we can make this possible for our students and our community members. I was just wondering if you would like to share who or what has kind of influenced you, your thinking about entrepreneurship and innovation?
So that's a good question. So I'm not an expert. I'm passionate about it, but I've never launched a business. I've launched a lot of ideas. I launched
you're entrepreneurial.
Yes. I launched a faculty at University of Winnipeg.
Yeah.
That faced competition from another university that I now work at. So from that perspective, but what I observe is, and what I have seen by talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, and one of the great things I get to do as president of a university is speak to people who are donors to our university who are very successful entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And there's a quality that you see in all of them. And that quality is a passion for what they're doing, and a vision for what they're doing, and a resilience, because it's always really interesting to hear them talk about their journey, and they'll often talk about their failures more than their successes. And in order to overcome those kind of failures, you really have to have resilience. And you really have to believe in what you're doing. And I think that that's a quality that we see in many people who are successful, whether they're entrepreneurs or not. And so I'm attracted to that kind of personality and nurturing that personality. Here in the city of Winnipeg, I've had the opportunity to sit down with Jerry Price from Price Industries. Jerry calls himself a serial entrepreneur and looks at his business as a whole series of startups that have built together over time. And he tells a story where when he was starting, and it's a story you hear in a lot of startups, all the money they were making was being reinvested in the company. And at one point, they were at a point where they had so much debt and the cash flow wasn't working that they weren't sure that they would open tomorrow, right? And what he did and the way that this works is there's tremendous personal sacrifice. So you see this in CEOs of small startups, medium startups. At some point, they have given everything they have.
Yeah.
In fact, their salaries have gone back into the company to keep it going. I'm I'm really interested in that kind of passion and ability to put everything on the line for what you're doing. And I think if I know we have people and students on campus who have that passion for what they're doing, and I just want to see the U of M be part of their success and part of their journey.
Yeah, well, I can vouch for that. I've done 3 startups, and there are many points in that journey when you have to put all your, everything that you've earned back into your startup because you so much believe in the story and you want to, give it your best.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So we've just released our new strategic plan for the university, and this phrase that we've been thinking about a university for Manitoba. So I wonder if we could just kind of go a little bit bigger picture, 30,000-foot view. What is this vision of what we're trying to do here at the university? How does that impact and play into our desire to be a university for Manitoba?
So, most of what we do is here in Winnipeg, in Fort Garry. And yet, our programs, in many areas, we're the only university that offers
Yes.
particular programs in Manitoba. And so we can't afford to just be University of Manitoba in Winnipeg. We need to service all communities and provide support for all communities across this province. And the challenge I've presented to our institution is to think about what we need in all of Manitoba.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I was just in Churchill, Manitoba, where we opened our research station, and I got to spend a fair bit of time with their mayor, Michael Spence. And Michael sees our research station as part of the economic contribution to Churchill. And it made me think about, we're up there to do research. It's real science that they're doing there, but we're contributing to the economy of Churchill. And as a result of that, we are becoming engaged in other goals that Churchill is trying to accomplish in the port and opening up passages in the northern part of the world to Europe and resurrecting the port, resurrecting the railway and making it viable as an economic, as an economic engine. We're contributing and we're listening to areas of rural Manitoba that need more healthcare providers. How can we provide those? When we are the University for Manitoba, there's things we need to do here in Winnipeg, either on Fort Garry or the Bannatyne campus, that would be different if we were only doing them for Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And we need to, and we have a responsibility that to our province. And so in the entrepreneurial framework, and we hear this all the time, there are needs across this province. How can we contribute to those needs? How can we help businesses succeed across the province of Manitoba? So our responsibility as a university is to the entire province, and not just to the city of Winnipeg.
Nice. Thank you.
No, absolutely.
Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit. Do you have some favorite entrepreneurial thinkers and doers? People that you kind of follow, intrigued by?
Well, I mean, I mentioned Jerry Price, who I'm very intrigued by because he has a particular vision, which I think is really humane and really moral. And he worries about his employees and his business first, and that's always taking care of all the rest. Certainly looking at entrepreneurs and ones that have really changed the world. Bill Gates kind of strikes me always, and I kind of followed the work that he's done and how he started from where he did, and then obviously built a massive empire, but how he shifted that now also in his foundation to trying to make fundamental changes across the world. And U of M has been a big recipient of this because we received quite a lot of funds from them. But what's interesting about the funds we receive from them is there's a results-based goal, and you have to meet that result in order to accomplish what they set out and for them to provide you with additional funds. I've seen and had the opportunity to speak to many entrepreneurs, and again, there's a philosophy in it, and that I'm more attracted to. I think there's so many thinkers in the world that drive change and are able to also really become successful, and rather than I often don't think about the individuals as much as the characteristics and the traits of those individuals that really
Right.
attract.
That's a good
me.
Right.
insight.
No,
Yeah.
that's a important thing, I guess. So we would like to know, I mean, if there is anything interesting that you're reading right now, maybe, or something that we could share with our viewers.
Yeah, so I've just started reading Yuval Harari's new book, Nexus,
I see.
which brings us to kind of the evolution of communication to AI.
Oh, okay.
And I'm really interested to hear his perspective, but I just started that. So, but it's a book that's gotten a lot of press, and so I'm really excited to read this one.
Sure,
Excellent.
that's great.
Okay, we'll add it to the list. Curious, did you ever have a lemonade stand as a child?
So I never did.
Okay.
Actually. I did not have I think I was too lazy. I wanted to drink the lemonade rather than sell it, right? So no, I never did.
Okay, so let's see. Is there a favorite spot on campus for you where you think, the juices start to flow a little more, I guess?
I mean, it's now UM properties, but I I love walking through the golf course, and especially along the riverbank,
Right.
just behind the environment building, and just being close to the river and a little bit in nature, and a number of times when I've walked through there, the deer have been out, and
nice.
it's a little bit of a serene spot. There's construction going on there now, but I love that spot along the river. When I was dean of the Asper School, I used to like to just go kind of across the street and just sit by the river. And
Right.
again, it's U of M, but there's usually not a lot of crowds.
Yeah.
And it's just a very quiet spot.
Okay.
Now we know about it.
Yeah, now we know. Okay, my last question. You've been teaching for a long time. You've been a leader in higher education. Do you have, though, a favorite teacher?
Wow,
And why, maybe?
that's a good question. I think my favorite teacher, and somebody I've spoken about for a long time, and she's no longer alive, was an undergraduate professor. Her name was Jane Snidel. She taught economics to me. She taught public economics, not my field. But truth be told, she ignited a passion in me for economics, and she was head of the department. And one day after class, she said to me, do you want to come by and just have a conversation? I'd like to talk to you. I was like, oh my God. Last time I got sent to the principal, so you're an undergrad. You're a little nervous when the chair of the department says that. And so she said to me, you seem to have a real passion for this work, and I think you should consider a future in economics. And she never needed to do that. Her classes were super engaging. She called on us to answer questions. You had to be prepared. And that summer, just before the summer was starting, she again came to me at the end of class and said, I have an opportunity that you might want to consider. And it was to teach an intro economics class. It was actually, I think it was at Robertson College, to administrative assistants who had to take kind of a short class that did micro and macro together. And she said, you should, I think you'd be really good at that. You speak well in class. And so what I always really loved about her is she didn't have a problem coming to me and encouraging me in the work. And, I had not had that of teachers who kind of encouraged me. And I never forget that. And it led to, it actually changed my trajectory. I was thinking of going into law school. Although my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, would say to me, "Really, law school seems boring." Sorry, law school. But she changed my trajectory because she gave me the confidence to say, "Okay, maybe I'll go into graduate school in economics." She was obviously served as a reference for me when I went to graduate school. And I've never looked back. It was the right choice for me. I would have probably been a decent lawyer, but it was the right choice for me. I remain to this day passionate about economics, even though I'm not in the classroom the way I used to be. I talk about economics all the time, and I use economics as a lens to evaluate the world all the time. And so she stands out for me.
I love that so much, that you just talk about that role of someone seeing something in you, naming it, right, and really encouraging you. And I think when we think about our work on campus and igniting this entrepreneurial spirit, it's similar, right? That we want to be that support for folks, to kind of nudge them along the continuum.
I love that.
It's a profound effect that you can have as a teacher, I guess. So
that's right.
That's
right.
amazing.
And that's what you both do. Is to try to bring out people's passion and talent. And I think sometimes younger people need a little nudge. They need permission sometimes to say, you don't have to go that path. Like for me, it was, you don't have to go to law school where, you're kind of like the path.
Yeah.
There are other paths here.
That's right.
And I didn't have to choose that. And in the end of the day, it was my choice.
It was your decision.
It provided me with a lens and information. And she would answer any questions I would come and ask her about and which schools to go to. And, I think that's kind of nurturing environment that we can create and we can provide to our students, even though there's 31,000.
No, I agree totally. We couldn't let you go without asking one last question from our side, and that is to ask you for your advice. To anybody who is considering this journey of entrepreneurship, who is already in the middle of it. What would your advice be?
Don't be afraid to take risks. Right? Go for it, and don't be discouraged by setbacks and failures those barriers that come up along the road. I think a lot of my job as president is to try to remove the barriers when they appear or when they come up for things that we're trying to move forward as an institution. And I would just say, go for it, and be passionate about what you're doing. And as long as you're passionate and love what you're doing, you're going to be successful.
Fantastic. What a great way to end. Dr. Benarroch, thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much for coming today.
Idea Start podcast.
My pleasure. And you all know that I'm behind you 100%.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so you don't miss a new episode of the Idea Start podcast. Please connect with us and share your comments below. And let us know how the topics are resonating with you and what guests would you like to see featured.